Hi, welcome back to my homestead. It's Lori, and today I want to share a different kind of journey. I'm embarking on kind of laying my soul bare before you because I'm hoping that what I share will be of some help to somebody at some point in time. Yesterday, I had the startling realization that I have come down with shingles. It was actually shocking, but then some things kind of started to fit into place as I looked back over the last couple days. And so, because the shingles can be a very stereotypical sickness, we think we know what it looks like. I just want to share with you that there's sometimes other ways that it looks so that you can be on the lookout in case these things happen to you. Now, to start out with, you probably know that shingles is the varicella-zoster virus, which is the chickenpox virus. And so if you've had chickenpox in the past, then at some point way in the future, at any time when your body is under stress or imbalances or some triggering event happens, then the shingles can come out. And so I had some preconceived ideas about shingles. I've known a few people with shingles, but I never saw them directly go through it. And so even though as a nurse, I knew the classic shingles pain is debilitating, I didn't understand what it was like until now I'm experiencing it. So I want to back you up into the middle of the week and just let you know how my symptoms started. So like I said, so that you can keep your eyes open and also so that it might help you to understand other people when they are going through shingles. I have titled this video Shingles, My Journey as a Redhead, because we as gingers or redheads tend to experience pain differently. It's been well documented that we receive anesthesia differently, we experience pain in different ways than other people. And so I feel like that may be playing into some of the symptoms that I'm having, but I'm not saying that it is only because I'm a redhead. I have typically heard of the usual symptoms of a blistering rash that's very, very painful. The nerve pain is super painful. And I always thought that all the pain came from the rash. In my case, so far, that's not the case. It's coming from different areas. So let me start you out with day one. I'm filming this, it is Sunday, and my pain started on Wednesday. I will preface this to say that over the last few weeks, I have had significant stress in my life, not only some health scares that have really impacted me and not knowing how they are going to be working out. So there's that kind of writing in the background. So I am a person who I think it's hard for me to fool my body when things are going on. Sometimes the stress comes out in different ways, and I think it can come out as shingles. Okay, so day one for me was Wednesday. I woke up with a migraine. Now, I do get migraines pretty often, so this time I decided to wait it out to see what direction it was going to go. Sometimes when I wake up with a migraine, it is already pounding and I already know it's going to be fully set in and I just need to take something at that moment. But other times I can kind of, by eating carefully, drinking lots of water, I can kind of head it off at the pass and dull it. And so I didn't know which way it was going to go, so I didn't take anything for it right away. I feel like that's important to say, just to note that I didn't have any painkillers in my body that would diminish my sense of feeling things. I was standing at the stove cooking breakfast, and I felt something sharp. It felt like something poked me in the hip, and I literally looked down to see if some kind of thorn had gotten into my pajamas, which I was wearing. I couldn't find anything, and then like within a short period of time, felt another sharp poke, and it was brief, but it literally felt like needles poking me somewhere around my right hip, right around my hip joint. And so I within a few minutes, I felt a few of these pokes. They hurt pretty badly, pretty significantly, but they were so brief that I thought it was odd. Didn't say anything to anybody, and I just went about my day. Well, a couple hours later, I started just feeling off. Couldn't really explain it. Just didn't feel that good. I still had that migraine kind of building. And so I did at some point take something for my migraine. But I remember also feeling like, aside from the migraine, I just felt really, really nauseated. And I just, to the point of really feeling like I was going to throw up. It didn't seem like it was going to be like sometimes when I have a migraine, I will feel kind of queasy and nauseated, but I don't usually feel like I'm actually going to throw up. It just hangs around. But I actually went to the bathroom feeling all that nausea was kind of overwhelming. And then I started to get a really heavy feeling in my right hip. And so at that time, I also noticed that the right side of my abdomen, all the way like a band around my hip, if you can imagine, um, starting here at my navel and just a band around to my lower back. It was so, so sensitive. I just could not stand for anything to be touching my skin. And that was very, very strange. So all the way to my spine, I felt this sensation. And then also it was hurting deep inside. I felt like it was joint pain. It was throbbing. And then that burning, prickly feeling on my skin. I cannot describe it. I just knew it really hurt. I tried to kind of feel to see if I felt anything amiss, and I couldn't even stand for my own fingers to very lightly touch my lower abdomen. I remember thinking at that time that I must have been having some kind of arthritis related hip flare up. And then I thought, well, no, it doesn't feel like it's only in my hip. And so that I started thinking, well, maybe it's like a bursitis, because everything around my hip felt inflamed, but there was no redness. It was just nothing, no rash, nothing, just super, super painful. And along with that, like I said, the deep achy feeling, and eventually it was just throbbing. So that was day one, and I was just like, there's something not right. I remember telling my friend, wow, I'm having a hip flare up. And I just thought this must be something with aging. But then she said, you know, when I get a hip flare up, I don't have skin sensitivity. I don't have anything like that. That seems really odd. So I thought, well, I guess I'm just different. So sleeping was uncomfortable that first night, and I couldn't find a good position to sleep in. This continued through the next day, and it was about the same, and my hip just was really, really sensitive. I ended up trying some different creams. Like I had a CBD oil cream that was supposed to be good for pain, so I tried to rub that on. I could just barely, barely touch it on my skin. I didn't even rub it in too well because it had to stay on the surface because of all the pain and sensitivity. I don't really know that it worked. I don't know that it helped, but it certainly didn't hurt, didn't make it worse. So in the meantime, during this week, I was a week into my resolve to get into shape. And so I was trying to do more exercising through this week. And so I continued exercising. I was like, I remembered hearing from physical therapists that motion is lotion. So if you're hurting, you still need to kind of keep moving, just kind of watch it and don't overdo it. So I was taking 2 45-minute exercise sessions. Like one was usually on the trampoline and one was usually walking down our road. I did start taking it easy. I didn't like push it. And I don't know, if anything, just walking slowly didn't seem to make it any worse. But if I tried to like walk fast, then yeah, it got worse. But I also found that doing something, being up and around and moving was a good distraction, because the more still that I was, or if I tried to lay down, the throbbing just was so noticeable. So I honestly felt like keeping busy and keeping active was what I needed to do. So at night, though, it would throb and throb, and it really bothered me. So at that point, I was spending a lot of time researching bursitis, tendinitis, and some of the symptoms sort of matched. And so at one point, I just was convinced that I must have bursitis, and I was just trying to take it easy. And then in the back of my mind, though, it kept coming to me that the pain I was feeling, especially in my lower abdomen, all the way around to my outer hip, felt like some type of nerve pain. And that's all I could describe it as. It felt kind of like a burning, prickling, very sensitive feeling, and I couldn't stand to have anything touching it. So I was wearing very loose clothing, trying to like not have anything tight up against it. And at the same time, I was thinking about it, and I have sciatica quite a bit. And so this is the hip that I usually experience sciatica with. And I was thinking, sciatica has never wrapped around all the way to my groin and cause those symptoms. It usually is like a pain down my leg or right in my behind. And so this was so different, and it was, yeah, it was super different. And honestly, it just felt very achy and throbbing. And the only thing that I can relate it to was when I was in back labor with one of my children. I had all back labor, sort of like menstrual cramps, deep, deep achy feeling, and just a deep, deep throbbing. But I didn't see any rash. I didn't see any redness. I felt like I was kind of going crazy because I could not attribute it to anything, and I really couldn't find anything on the internet that suggested any kind of symptoms similar to what I was going through. So by Friday night, I was in so much pain, and my lower abdomen, right at the place where your appendix is, was throbbing so much. And it was so tender that I actually was convinced that I probably had appendicitis. And so I was doing poking and prodding tests on myself, and I was like, it doesn't seem to be rebound tenderness. So I kind of didn't think it was appendicitis, but it was right there where appendicitis would affect me. And then I never had heard of appendicitis like wrapping around to your back. So I was just very uncomfortable. I did not sleep very well that night. And I was just hoping this flare up would go away quickly because it was really affecting my day, my sleep, and everything. So even though my hip was throbbing and I was just feeling unwell, I dragged myself to church and Sabbath school, and I sat uncomfortably through the whole thing, through the Sabbath school. I was shifting from one position to another because sitting kind of made it throb more. It seemed like standing was a little bit easier. So between Sabbath school and church, I reached around to my lower back, and I was like, something is itching. And I felt something, and I was like, there seems to be some bumps on my back. So I scooted into the bathroom and I looked at my lower back, and I had a patch about 2 inches by 1.5 inches of small raised skin colored rash, like vesicles. So they were fluid filled, but they weren't red and they weren't angry like I usually think of with shingles. But immediately I thought, oh, this does look like shingles in the early stages. So I kind of panicked, and I grabbed my nurse friend and I pulled her out of church, and I'm like, can you please look at this rash? And she came in there and she's like, oh, yeah, that definitely looks like shingles to me. And I was like, oh my goodness, just what I wanted, shingles. So I sat out of church for a few minutes. I thought, well, I don't want to risk spreading this to anybody. But once I thought it through and checked with a couple people who had had shingles before and kind of brushed up on my transmission status, I realized I wasn't going to be able to transmit this to anybody else because the blisters were just barely new. They weren't there when I left for church, but then they were there. And so they had just formed. They weren't leaking or anything, and I hadn't been touching them. So I felt good enough to feel like everything was under my clothing. Went back and sat through church, realizing, okay, at least I have an answer. So because I just because I saw one of our friends after church and he was a physician, I ran it by him. I said, listen, this is what I have. Do you think this sounds like shingles? And he said, oh yeah, one-sided pain, rash, and ran through the symptoms. And he said, you really need to get on an antiviral now. Don't wait. I'll call it in for you now. And I'm like, oh, well, that'd be great. I kind of was still reeling from figuring out that this is what I had. So I'm like, okay, so we swung by after church and picked up the prescription, and I started it right away. And he said it may not necessarily halt the progression of the shingles since I already have it in my system, but it may prevent me from getting post-herpetic neuralgia, which is a nerve pain that can last for months and months or for the rest of your life. He said he has one patient who has it and didn't get on the antivirals soon enough, and so she has been having it for quite an extended period of time, more than just a couple months. So I definitely didn't want that. And now that I understood some of the pain that shingles brings, I realized, wow, it's kind of a big deal. So that's kind of what led up to to me realizing that I had shingles. And then, so the acyclovir that I have, I'm supposed to take 5 times a day. So I thought, well, I want to take this on schedule and put myself on a schedule that I'll be able to do through the day. So I put myself on 6 a.m., 10, 2, 6, and 10. So that's 5 doses. And then I can hopefully sleep through that other period and keep it in my system through all waking hours. I'm also taking a lot of vitamin C with it because I have recommendations that you need a lot of vitamin C for wound healing. I realize this might not be the best time to continue with like pushing a really active workout routine, and so I've given myself a little bit of grace, but I'm trying to keep up with at least one 45-minute workout or walk a day, and just trying to do what I can because I really do want to get myself into a better shape, but I'm going to be prioritizing rest more. I'm also trying to keep very hydrated and eat a healthy diet. I read several things that you should prioritize foods that have low arginine and high lysine. And so as I looked over the list, I'm like, man, there's not a lot of food I can eat as a vegetarian and as a vegan. So I'm trying to just eat a balanced diet, and then I've added lysine to my diet at the recommendation of like every website under the sun. What I'm feeling like now, this is Sunday. And so started on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday, today and yesterday, have been basically the same. Throughout the night, last night, and then into today, I have had more little patches of rash coming out. So now I have at least 4 places. None of them are as big as the first place, which is like right by my spine. It starts at my spine and it goes over. But I have a small spot, and then I have another little cluster, and then another little cluster that's really faint that seems to be building. So far, they are only itching, but I understand that they are going to be getting worse and very painful. The typical time with shingles, they say, is 2 to 4 weeks, at kind of like at a minimum time that you get it. And so I'm like, okay, so this is not like a flu or cold that's going to be there for, 3 to 5 days. It's going to be sticking around. And so I did get some cayenne pepper pain patches, which I've tried a couple times. I'm not 100% sure yet if they work. They don't seem like they've hurt anything, but the pain is not with the rash with me so far. The pain is inside. It's that skin pain that's really, really still really prickly and burny and, really, really, really sensitive. That has continued where I'm choosing clothing like this dress that sits on my shoulders and leaves my hips really flowy, that doesn't touch my lower back and doesn't touch my hips and abdomen too much. I'm just trying to focus on that. And then and the achy pain, I feel like it's still hanging around a lot. And I thought I was kind of going crazy, wondering if this is actually shingles pain or maybe something else going on simultaneously. But I finally searched and searched and found a Reddit thread where there were a couple of people who are or were, when they had shingles, experiencing that deep, either like a deep muscular pain or a deep bone pain that's quite significant. Some of them rated it as like 9 on the 0 to 10 pain scale. 10 is always going to be labor for me, having a baby. So I don't rate this as that, but I have had 3 children, and this is climbing up there to significant pain. So in a strange way, finding that other gentleman who was describing such detail of the pain that he was going through and realizing that is so similar to the pain I am going through right now, it just made me feel a little bit better, like I'm not the only one. And I kind of wonder if he's a redhead, but I'll never know. But he described it as deep, extremely intense muscle pain. And he said the pain is horrible now. It's deep, it's stabbing, it's nonstop. The rash is burning now and itchy, but it's still not his main concern. So that was day 5 for him, and I am somewhere around day 4 to 5, depending on how we count it. So last night when I went to bed, I was having that deep, deep hip pain. The blankets were so heavy that I just could hardly stand having the blankets on me, and I can only sleep on my left side. I did try to sleep on my right side, but it puts too much pain on that hip. And that's kind of where I was today. Just very dull, achy pain, feeling like I was going through back labor again. And I did find out that taking a Motrin does kind of help to ease the pain for a couple hours. So I have started doing that a little bit. When I initially started getting all that sensitive skin pain, I really thought I was having a big inflammatory response. So I was taking a lot of turmeric, and I will say that it probably helped some of the joint pain, but it did not do anything to touch that nerve pain on my skin surface. Okay, so this has been a little bit of a long ramble, but I did want to give you a chance to just experience and know what one person's journey is like. I will probably share over the next few days if anything is changing. If things are kind of going along status quo, I will probably just wait a few days, and then, I imagine pretty soon the blisters will start coming to a head, and they will start, scabbing over just like the chicken pox. But yeah, I have I have nothing for that just yet. Right now, I just wanted you to realize that there can be different types of pain with shingles, not just from the rash. You can have the deep pain, you can have the skin pain. So if you feel a little tingle, if you start feeling like your skin is super sensitive, and especially along the nerve lines, look up dermatomes and see where they map. There's certain nerve pathways, in other words, that come out from your spine, and if you can see where they are, if your pain is following those pathways, then you very well may be starting the very, very early stages of a shingles outbreak. So pay attention, and if you can start picking up on that, then you can start taking precautions early on. They say that if you start taking the antivirals like as soon as the rash comes out, then you have a much better chance of not getting the post-hepatic neuralgia. And I'm really, really hoping that I will not end up with that. So do your research, look around, and I hope that what I am sharing is a little bit either encouraging or informative to somebody out there with your journey for shingles. You're probably not crazy, even though you may feel like it. I'm just, I'm just really thankful for my church friends who've been there for me, and people who are reaching out and saying, "Hey, do you need help?" And yeah, I think it's something I have to kind of go through. I'm taking it easy. I'm not like laying in bed all day, because that actually makes the pain worse. Laying in bed seems to make everything throb more, so being up and around is actually better for me. I'm hoping to do a little bit more crocheting and a little bit more easy going type work. But I know I'm going to make it through. I know I will. And if you have shingles, I know you're going to make it through too, but sometimes you may not feel like it. So hang in there. If you found this video because you're searching out symptoms of shingles, I hope that this is some type of encouragement to you. Anyway, try to take my advice to, as I always say, be safe, be well, and may God bless you. And whatever you're going through, know that He is going through it with you all along. Have a great day. Goodbye from Ridgehaven Homestead, and goodbye from Charlie Brown.